welcome to Heartland Darkland. I'm Cassie.
And I'm Shannon.
Hey,
Hey,
Dark
Dark
Hearts.
Hearts.
Oh, hey.
Hey, hey.
Here we are
Here we
again.
are.
Another
I know.
day, I don't know. I was going to say another dollar, but not because,
Because we definitely don't make money doing this. So this is not a
no,
dollar being earned.
no. And I didn't go into work today because my daughter had a slight fever and, she's fine otherwise. But when they have a fever, you don't send them to
Oh, yeah.
school. And I didn't want to risk it. Last night, I guess, while I was at work, I got a text that she had a headache.
Uh-oh.
And then she napped, but my husband said she had no fever. And then when she woke up from her nap, she was fine. And then this morning we got up, she seemed fine. But then, I don't know, we had a moment and she just felt really hot. And then she was fine
No.
again. But I was like, yeah, you're going to stay home. And now, her fever broke. It was like 100, right?
Yeah.
But I'm still like, we're
Yeah.
going to stay home. So then it broke. She's like, cool, can I go to school now? I was like, no,
That's
no.
funny.
But I
Most
had
kids are
to,
like, no, don't want to go to school. So, hey,
yeah.
at least she likes it.
She does, and I'm thankful for that. But I had to be like, no, no, I had to cancel clients today. You're going to stay put. So
Right. And they would have just sent her home anyway if you had taken her. You know what I mean? So it's like,
exactly,
nah.
exactly. So you could tell her cheeks were just a little flushed, she was perfectly fine. But I was like, nah, I don't want to risk it turning into something.
No.
And if you have something, we're obviously not going to spread it. So you guys, I get it, it's tough, but if your kid's sick, keep them home.
Yes, please do.
Please
Even if
do.
it is annoying to you and inconvenient. Sometimes you just do it. Especially now, I mean, it's shitty anytime, but during holiday season when kids are getting sick and it's like, no one has time for that. There's too much going on in
Right.
life. So,
Exactly. Exactly. So.
so yeah.
Yeah, that's just my little, soapbox PSA moment, I guess. Um, I don't even know. It feels like forever ago since we recorded, and I know it isn't, but it was so, oh my gosh, I'm just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So, y'all,
Same.
I guess unless you have anything to add, you ready to dive right in?
Yeah, I am ready to go because I don't have to
Perfect.
do anything. So go right ahead.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So this week I wanted to stick with the spooky season theme, and so I did look into horror movies that were based on actual events, which there are actually quite a few. We know the
Yes.
Amityville Horror and I think even the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based
Yes,
off of
very loosely, like a few different. I even looked up
yeah.
if Scream is even
Scream
based.
is from a Florida thing.
I wanted to do it so bad, and then I was like, "Oh, why is it Florida?" But
I
you could always
almost
think,
did it just because I was like, whatever, it's spooky season, and because you had put that Scream was one of your favorites. So I
yeah,
almost did that. I was gonna do it because I was like, who cares?
it's spooky season. Who
It's
cares?
spooky season. I actually have another case that I might do for my next one for the end of the month or whatever, even though it's not in the Midwest either, but it's just I'm gonna see what I can find, but that's neither here nor there. So anyways,
Perfect.
I was gonna do Scream until I came across this one, which is just came out on August 30th on Netflix. Is the movie The Deliverance, which is on my list to watch. I still haven't watched it, but prior to knowing this, I still had it on my list to watch. I was like, ooh, this sounds good. I want to watch
Yeah,
it.
I started it, and I probably got just 5 minutes in, but it was I don't even remember everything that was happening in the beginning, but it was very loud, and my dogs were losing their shit, so I paused it, and then I've never gone back to watch it. So I'm glad that I didn't now. So.
Yeah, now you can go in. So the director of this is the same director who he did Precious,
Hmm.
which I'm not gonna lie, I never watched, but I know that it was a big thing.
Yeah.
And he actually, I guess, one of the articles that I'll have linked in the show notes was an interview with him kind of talking about it. And he said, originally, he came across this, I think, shortly after directing Precious, but then he wasn't going to do it, but then it just really stuck with him and he decided to. So that was kind of interesting to see. But,
Yeah, that is interesting. I kind of forgot about Precious. That seemed like a long time ago that was out, but
right?
yeah, forgot all about
Yeah.
that.
So, so it turns out that The Deliverance is inspired by events that took place in Gary, Indiana between the end of 2011 and 2012. I'm also going to put just a slight trigger warning for child abuse. There's nothing graphic or sexual. It's just Skeptics believe that there was maybe some neglect and mental illness stuff going on, so just giving that heads up first. So, in November of 2011, Latoya Amons and her mother Rose Campbell and Latoya's 3 children, who have all remained unnamed, they were ages 12, 9, and 7 at the time, moved into a 1-story rental home in Gary, Indiana. And I think it was like on California Street or something like that. I should have written it down, but so I don't know how old Latoya was at the time or her mom, but we have the kids. The kids I'm only going to reference by their age. The daughter was 12, and then the 9 and 7-year-old were boys. So, and that was one of the things, like, Latoya did speak to, like, a local, like, indie star or something like that, which was, like, a local journal place, like, newspaper report type thing, but, like, her biggest thing was, like, "I don't want my children named." Um, so
That's fair.
Yeah. So soon after, Latoya and Rose reported that in December of 2011, swarms of black flies were gathering in the screened-in porch. And despite the cold and no matter how many they killed, they kept appearing.
Ew.
Then, yeah. Then after that, Latoya says, like it would be after midnight and she would start to hear footsteps coming up from the basement stairs and like the basement door opening. And there was one evening where she even saw a shadowy figure of a man pacing her living room. And when she got up to investigate, she saw a wet footprint.
Nope.
Yeah. And I can't remember one of the places, like a lot of the articles all state the same thing. And I don't know if it was Wikipedia, I think, which I don't know where this came from, but they put that she saw a sexy shadow figure. And I'm like, nowhere did I see her say sexy.
And what does a sexy shadow look like? I mean, pretty
Right.
sure a shadow is pretty effing scary regardless. Whether
Yeah.
it's sexy, that's the funniest thing. What does that mean? Okay.
Yeah. Like I never saw anything that I think it was like Wikipedia, like I said, that was the only place I saw it. I'm like, where the hell did you get sexy from? Like what?
Right, right. That's a very odd word to describe
Yeah.
something in its
Yeah.
nature.
So, after that, like it continued to escalate. Supposedly one night while a friend was sleeping over, her daughter levitated above her bed. And she was still asleep, and like it wasn't until they started praying that she came back down to the bed. Um, the kids were supposedly thrown across rooms, had objects thrown at them, spoke in like demonic voices. And so Latoya reached out to the local churches, but most of them ignored her. One of them told her that her house had spirits and to clean it with ammonia and bleach and then use oil to make crosses on all of the doors and windows. And apparently, a couple of different clairvoyants told her that there were like 200 demons in her home. And it should be noted that Latoya and her mom are very religious people. Like they went to church all the time. And so one of the clairvoyants told her to build an altar in the basement with a white candle with statues of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, and with the Bible open to Psalm 91, which I did Google, and apparently that's a prayer of protection because I didn't know what that was. The clairvoyant also told her to cleanse her house with sage and sulfur, which I've heard of saging
Yeah,
a
the staging I
space.
get, but yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know the other one.
And with that too, also know that that is an indigenous practice, like that comes from indigenous peoples. And so before you try to do that on your own, like be discussing that with an indigenous person and seeing if they can come into your home to do that for you. Sulfur, I have never heard of. I've heard of demons smelling of sulfur, so I don't understand how sulfur would cleanse the space. But okay, I guess.
That just
So
sounds like it would smell real bad, but I guess
yeah.
whatever at that point, you're just desperate.
Yeah, exactly. And she said then for 3 days things were fine, but then after that, Latoya and her children were all possessed by demons. So Rose said that she was unaffected because she was born with a protection from evil. And Latoya mentioned that she just would feel really warm and out of it, and like she wasn't in control of her body when it happened to her. The youngest boy would sit in a closet and talk to a boy that no one else could see or hear, and apparently this boy described her son what it felt like to be killed.
Oh gosh, that's dark, some dark shit.
Yeah. Apparently once the 12-year-old daughter was thrown into a headboard and the wound needed stitches.
Oh my gosh.
And so she had told psychologists, I believe, at some point that sometimes it felt like she was being choked and she would hear voices telling her she'd never see her family again and wouldn't live another 20 minutes.
Oh,
Like sometimes I guess it got so bad that they would sleep at a hotel and they were tight on money, like because one clairvoyant was like the only way is to move and she's like, well, I can't really do that. Um so on April 19th of 2012, they went to their family physician, Dr. Jeffrey Onayoki, hoping he could help them, which I don't know how. I mean, if you think it's a spiritual thing, I don't know how you think a
uh,
doctor
Western
would help.
medicine. Yeah,
But I mean, I suppose if you're
desperate
desperate.
times. Yeah, for sure.
So he said it was bizarre, and in his 20 years of practice, he'd never come across anything like it, and that like he was even a little freaked out to enter the room. Um,
Yeah, I would be.
so then like he wouldn't speak much more to reporters. I think anything else that was in it, he said unless she signed a waiver, but like anything else I think was in his medical reports that he had put in that were then part of like DCS reports that come about and police reports. But in his notes, he'd written hallucinations and delusions of ghosts in the home. And apparently, while at the office, the 7-year-old cursed at the doctor in a demonic voice and was lifted and thrown across the room with no one near him.
Oh
And
my gosh.
there were several people who witnessed this. And this then eventually prompted a call, like someone in the office called 911, which led to like emergency medical services and like 7 to 8 police officers arriving. And this also led to an anonymous call to Indiana DCS, which is the Department of Child Services, stating they thought there was abuse or neglect of the children, that they thought Latoya may have a mental illness and the children were performing for her.
Which I could see. I mean, this day and age, it's like people are just skeptical of everything,
Right.
So,
And
I
when you're in a
mean,
medical situation
right.
like that,
Well, and you want to make sure you can at least like, either confirm or deny that because you don't want to send
right.
the children back to a dangerous situation if that is the case.
Exactly. Like, makes sense. So
Hmm.
Valerie Washington was assigned to the case and did the initial report. So, like, she never spoke to reporters. So everything then comes from police reports and the DCS reports. But so the family, like, the kids were all taken to a hospital. And according to hospital records and the hospital psychiatrist, they said the family was in good physical health, and psychiatrists said that Latoya was of sound mind. So
Okay.
when Washington spoke to Latoya, the 7-year-old started to growl. His eyes rolled on the back of his head, and he wrapped his hands around his 9-year-old brother's throat, refusing to let go, and this forced adults to pry his hands away.
Oh my gosh.
He also told his brother in a deep voice that it's time to die and I'm going to kill you. So during all of this then too, it's the whole family in there, right? It's Latoya, it's the 3 children and the grandma Rose, as well as Washington and a male nurse who was in there. So Washington and this nurse also witnessed the 9-year-old who was holding on to his grandma Rose's hand at this time. They watched him walk up the wall, flip over his grandmother,
Mm-mm.
and
Nope.
land on his feet.
That's the kind of creepy shit that I know.
And they said that like he never let go of Rose's hand. So some skeptics said that this would have allowed him to balance, but like you all gotta have some
To
good
walk up a
hand
wall?
strength.
Yeah.
Like both
Hell no.
you and your grandma have to have some really hardcore hand strength in order for
No
her to
doubt.
support you with one arm and you to support yourself.
It's just like on The Exorcist when she's, like, going down the stairs backwards, like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? That was some creepy that will haunt me. So, this
Yes.
alone, no, maybe I should not watch this movie. You know how I feel about demonic stuff, so
Right. So police asked Washington if the boy like ran up the wall, like he was gonna do like an acrobatic trick, because like parkour people will do
Right,
that shit.
yeah. Right,
But
and
she
you're
said
young and
no. She said he
oh,
glided across the floor, the wall, and the ceiling.
hell no, that's when I would GTFO.
Yeah. So the next day was actually the 7-year-old's 8th birthday. And on this day, like they had called the family back in for more stuff, and actually DCS then took emergency custody of the 3 kids without a court order. Um, and the nurse who witnessed this 9-year-old walking up the wall said he thought it was not demonic in nature, but also that maybe there was some mental illness at play. I don't know. So
Interesting.
on
I
April
mean
20th, yeah, which is the youngest one's 8th birthday, and they're taken away from their mom. They're all very upset about this. They felt comfortable together. But the hospital chaplain reached out to Reverend Michael Manott from a parish in Maryville, Indiana, and he performed 3 exorcisms on Latoya in his church. And she actually then ended up with a home in Indianapolis, and he blessed that as well. He was convinced there were spirits in the Gary home and that the family was being tormented by demons.
that's interesting to me too that the demon like I mean, in this situation too, obviously we don't know how that all works, but like that they would leave the house, that it wasn't just in the house, you know what I mean? Like they just
I
that
mean, but
makes
if you think about it, like if a spirit or a demonic presence could attach to a
Mhm.
person, but
Mhm.
then I guess if you do the, I don't know. I mean, there's so many things you could go into with
Yeah.
that. So Latoya and Rose returned to the Gary home with Washington and like 3 police officers to show them like the condition of the home. Because obviously, with DCS being involved, they
Right.
have to see these types of things. And one of the police was actually the Gary, Indiana police captain, Charles Austin. And he told interviews like he was a firm believer that there was paranormal stuff going on there. Because while they were there, apparently one officer's audio recorder malfunctioned, stating the batteries were dead despite having just put in new ones. Another later played back the audio and heard an unknown voice say, "Hey." Plus, there were 2 pictures that supposedly caught ghosts. One had like a hazy white spot that looked like a face, while a second in green seems to show a female figure, which in the articles they didn't post those, so I'm gonna have to look and see if I can find them to like try and post with the show notes this week. Um, I also want to say, which I didn't mark and I didn't watch, but I guess there was some sort of, when I was looking at the Wikipedia of this, I guess there was also like a supposed documentary done on this case that showed a lot of paranormal things, but I didn't get a chance to actually watch it. And some people said it was just like a hoax because it was
Mhm.
Zach Baggins. That's the dude from like the one of the paranormal shows
Oh
who's like
yeah.
over the top, isn't he?
I feel like that name is very familiar. So that would
Yeah,
make perfect sense.
because apparently I'll get into this, like, but like, yeah, apparently he filmed the documentary Demon House, that was
Oh.
released in 2018, and yeah, a lot of skeptics were like, it was a mockumentary, it wasn't a real
Yeah.
documentary, so it's hard to say. So yeah, so I'll look in, see if I can find any of those images before, when I go to post. But it would take until November of 2012 before Latoya regained custody of her children. And that was after she moved to a new house and meeting the requirements set forth by DCS, their case plan for her family. And in January of 2013, in a file to dismiss the wardship for her children by like DCS put this forth, it was stated that Latoya and her children had, quote, made progress and participated in in-home therapy. And it also stated, quote, the report also said that the family have not experienced any issues with demonic presence or spirits in their home in Indianapolis. So it then said they've moved on from that point in their lives and they still attend church regularly on Sunday, but the family was no longer fixated solely on religion to explain or cope with the children's behavioral issues. So it sounds like they then noted that maybe there was a mental aspect to this, but I also wonder if they just said that for the
To
sake.
close the case, and yeah,
Yeah.
we don't want to dabble in that and
Yeah.
open that door. Yep.
Yeah. So the Zach guy who did the documentary, like he apparently bought the house for 35,000, made that
Okay.
documentary, and then apparently tore it down. Um,
Hmm.
it being tore down, it was only on Wikipedia that I saw that. Again, I didn't like because I'm like, whatever.
Right. Right.
One of the articles that I read, like I said, it interviewed Precious, and he did state that he only spoke to Latoya once or twice because he was kind of nervous to talk to her. And he was kind of trying to distance this movie from her and her family, make it a little bit of his own. But he did say
Right.
she was really lovely and that she was at peace.
Hmm.
And he did note that he changed her mom to a white woman because he wanted to show what it's like for a woman to be raised by a white woman but live in a black girl's body. He also said that he obviously changed names and a few other things just to distance her and her family from it.
Which is nice because, like, you don't want to say, "Oh, that movie's all about me," and that like that person's playing me,
Right.
and yeah.
Yeah. Um, Now, some of the things to note for the people who are skeptical about it being an actual oh my goodness, I can't talk, demonic possession, and are more inclined to believe that it was like mental abuse or mental illness, abuse, or a money grab. So, the original owner of the house, the landlord who rented it out, and other tenants before and after claimed that they never had any sort of activity. And according to the
Hmm.
landlord, Latoya was late on several months of rent, and so he thought this was her way of trying to make some money.
Hmm.
Um, Others also noted that in 2009, Latoya had been in trouble before for neglecting her children's education for them not going to school enough. And this was another issue now in 2012, which she then said, well, the demons, at this point made them too sick to go to school at times. So, that's where some people are saying, well, she was neglecting their education and she used this as an excuse for it. While in DCS custody, the two older kids were sent to one place, and the youngest was sent to this place called Christian Haven in Wheatfield for psychiatric evaluation. And the clinical psychologist, Stacy Wright, said that he would act possessed whenever he was challenged, redirected, or asked questions he didn't want to answer.
Interesting.
So she said, um, otherwise he was coherent and logical except for when he was talking about the demons, and then, he would become incoherent, illogical. And she said that his stories always changed when talking about it. So she didn't believe he had a true mental disorder, but had been induced into a delusional system, which was perpetuated by his mother and then possibly reinforced by other family members.
Okay.
So then there was Joe Schwartz, who was the clinical psychologist who evaluated the other two children, and he pretty much agreed. He thought, there wasn't necessarily that the kids themselves had any mental illness, but that, like, they kind of came to believe this because of their mother.
Yeah,
Um,
what they're being told. I mean, and they're pretty young too.
right. And, I think it's, you could easily manipulate your children, a small child or whatever, into believing certain things and kind of like almost like a shared delusion type thing.
Oh yeah.
So Latoya was examined several times herself, and while it was stated she was guarded, there didn't appear to be any symptoms of psychosis or thought disorders. One psychologist did recommend that she be evaluated to see if her religiosity may be masking underlying issues, which, if you're a very, very religious person, like, right, could that, you're gonna sound logical if you're
Right.
deeply religious, that type of stuff. But Latoya and her children maintained that they were possessed. Latoya didn't believe that it was a psychiatric reason for it. She believed it was God who helped them to get through this. So that's where I kind of am also like, okay, did they say to DCS, like, yeah, no, you're right. There was something else here. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
it makes you kind of wonder what else. I mean, did they ever talk about anyone dying in that house beforehand or like the history of that?
I
No,
mean,
because
I never saw much on that. Like I said,
yeah,
I don't know if that demon house thing would, but again, if you have someone who's trying to, I do know
yes.
that like the tenant after them complained because like journalists and stuff were always coming by and like trying to offer them money to come in and do these things, and I think they just got sick of it.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, with there being no prior hit, I don't know, and like I said, the Demon House documentary I'm curious about, but I'm also like, well, if no one else had experienced this, but then,
That is odd.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to say. Oh yeah, Zach Baggins is the dude from the Ghost Adventures.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he already really annoys me, and I
Yeah,
don't
he's kind of
necessarily trust
douchey.
him anyways. So it would be kind of interesting to watch it and see, but I don't know if I could handle him because he's one that I watched something for the Velisca House stuff and
Oh,
was
yeah.
just like, I
He's
can't
just
stand
over
you.
the top. Yeah, a
Yeah,
little too theatrical there.
yeah. So, I mean, I know it's kind of it's a shorter one, but that that is
That's
the
a pretty
case
crazy
of
one, though. That's
the
creepy.
story that the Deliverance is based off of, and I did Google, and you can watch Demon House on Tubi for free
Okay.
or on Discovery Plus if you have a subscription.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you
Interesting.
if you want to watch that, those are the places you can. We'll see, maybe eventually, but like I said, he really annoys me, so I don't know that I will
No.
necessarily watch it, but I'll probably watch The Deliverance, even though
Yeah, I'm probably gonna
it's
watch
clearly
that.
been changed and stuff, but
It's still interesting to see kind of just because now that you've done this case, like I don't some of that stuff though is creepy. Like, I mean, seeing them flying across the room. Like, I mean, some of that stuff, like, how else do you explain it? Like,
the walking backwards up the wall and the
yeah,
ceiling, I mean, is it
that alone.
potentially doable? Yeah, but grandma and kid have to be real strong.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know.
I don't know, when you have
I
two
don't
witnesses, it's just I you
that's where it's
know?
weird. Yeah.
Mhm.
For sure. It's one of those eerie ones that you're just kind of like, I don't love that. I don't
Yeah,
love anything about that. So
exactly. So yeah,
interesting.
I thought that was a pretty interesting case.
It's spooky.
Yeah, I thought it was very fitting for spooky season and for people who like to watch kind of scarier movies. That's an option. Now you can go and watch it on Netflix if you have that and kind of know the story that it's based off of. And yeah,
Gosh. Okay. That's a good one. That's a good spooky one. I love those kind of things where you're just like, well, there really is no conclusion because
no,
you just don't actually know what the whole deal was there. But
no, I could see it going either way because I'm a skeptical believer. Like, I believe in this stuff, but I'm skeptical of
I
people.
know. I know. That's what makes it
And
tough.
yeah, so it's very interesting. I will say if you're going on Netflix and watching, I did come across yesterday, which is on my list now to watch too. It's What's Inside, and it's a Sundance film, and it's like this
Oh,
group of people. Did
I
you see the trailer?
this morning while I was working, I had it on in the background. I think it's like only a half hour in, but I think it's one of those movies that you actually need to like
To
pay
like pay
attention.
attention.
So I'm
Well,
probably
because
gonna,
there's body swapping.
yeah,
So it's like a group of
yeah,
friends, and someone has this case, and it
yes,
talks about how like our brains are like software and you can download them into other people's bodies and then
yeah.
shit ensues from there.
Did you watch it?
No, I just
Oh,
I watched a few of the trailers for
okay,
it.
yeah, yeah.
And I was like, "Nope, I want to watch this. I might try to watch it this evening, since my day kind of went a different route than it was supposed to."
Yeah.
We do have other stuff going on. I'll just kind of allude to we're gonna have another bonus episode this week. And it's fitting that I brought up the Belisca house because that may come up a little bit in the bonus episode, which will be posted right after this as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll see.
Excited for that.
I know. And I'm excited that it feels like fall. It's like 66 in my house because we haven't turned on the heater, and I absolutely love it. And
Yeah. It's
right now,
amazing.
my sister knitted me the most amazing cape,
Oh,
and it has a
yeah.
hood, and
Oh,
it's the softest
yeah.
thing ever. And I'm currently wearing it in my house because it makes a nice little shawl too.
Yeah.
But
It's definitely fall finally. Feels like the forecast is gonna stay nice and cool. So,
I know, I love it. I'm so excited. So
me
yeah,
too.
you guys, that's the case from Gary, Indiana.
Now we all have to watch the
And
movie. Let us know if you've watched it or
yeah,
any of the things, because I'm curious on thoughts.
let us know if you're from the area, were there when this was happening, you know more about it. Like, let us know. You know where to reach us. All of our socials, email, messages, whatever. I did get a message. We got a message the other day from someone who pointed out a Missouri case that I have never heard
Yeah.
of.
I didn't
So
see what it was yet, but I saw the message, so I'll
I
have to
just
look at that.
briefly Googled it. I didn't look in depth. So, we've got some stuff. We really
Sweet.
appreciate that. So, yeah, send us those cases, especially ones that aren't Nebraska. I mean, you can feel free to send us the Nebraska cases, but like the other
Yeah.
states are very helpful.
Yes.
Um,
That is
yeah,
very true, so
we've got that YouTube channel going. Listen, we still got to figure out editing for videos and stuff. And like, you're just looking at us. We don't have anything fancy with it. Maybe eventually, we'll
yeah.
get better with that. But for those who like to watch, and I guess if you want to see our faces, it's there. Or TikTok now, we can upload 60-minute increment videos.
Which is pretty
So
sweet. Yeah.
yeah, I had
Heck yeah.
to cut last week's in half, but luckily that didn't take me as long to figure out as I thought it would.
Good, because
So
I wouldn't
so
know.
that was nice. So you can watch it on YouTube or on our TikTok, and all of that is linked in our show notes, our Facebook, our Instagram. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Rate
all
and
there.
review because it helps bump our stuff
Yes.
up. If you could just take the time to literally scroll down on whatever you're watching and give us 5
Yeah.
stars.
Yes, we appreciate it. Following helps. If you just follow it,
Yeah.
and sharing is caring.
Yeah, for sure. We have a lot of followers on Facebook, but on Instagram, we don't have as many. So I'm like, people, if you have Instagram, go find us on there too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I don't even know. That's what one day we'll get to figuring out the social medias a little bit better, but it is what it is right now.
Yeah, we're just taking it a day at a time. So, you know,
There we are. So you
that's right.
guys, you know the drill. Until next time, stay heartland kind.
But Darkland wary.